Hey, what's up, folks? This is Nate. I want to talk about Pokemon investing. And one topic I did want to talk about is the market crashing. I don't think it's crashing. I think it's correcting itself, and there needs to be a big correction. Uh, Mainly because the prices right now, I believe, is overly hyped, too hyped, actually. And there's many factors for this. This is the pandemic for one, and and then from the pandemic, like big influencers like Logan Paul or Logic, that kind of just popped the cork to let it go sky high. But right now, what we're seeing is a market correction, and people are seeing prices dropping. Well, it's pretty much the hype fizzling out, and hype doesn't last forever. It eventually does fizzle out, and we have to rewind. Going back to early of 2020 is when the pandemic hit, and people lost their jobs. People are doing more home activities, so people are finding other ways to make money. So they're looking at hobbies, for example, as Pokemon sports. So it's not just Pokemon here; it's sports as well. So more home activities. People are trying to figure out ways to make more money, more side hustles, and we can see a lot of this activity. Now, prices have skyrocketed to a point where this is the time to sell rather than buy. And here's why. So, we're having a bunch of cards being flooded to PSA. You can go on their site right now, and there's a huge influx of cards being slabbed right now. For example, I have a whole bulk I'm going to send in. I have actually 3 or 4 piles of bulk to send to PSA, and my fear is in a year from now, is let's just say the pandemic ends. Okay, right now people are not going out spending as much money. They're not doing their entertainment, dining, or whatever they do. Prior of COVID-19. Okay, they're not spending that money elsewhere, which they usually did. Now they're taking their money, their spending habits elsewhere, and that's like Pokemon for right now. So when the pandemic does end, okay, people's spending habits change. Okay, so when people's spending habits change, what happens? Prices are influenced by that. And remember, Pokemon cards do not produce anything. Sport cards don't produce anything. It's only what people are willing to pay for. Okay, I'll say that again. Pokemon cards, sport cards, is only worth is what someone's willing to pay for. And we can see this, the comps changing daily. There's fake comps too. You have to be aware of that as well. Market manipulators, people trying to influence the market to benefit them. But anyways, so let's just say 6-8 months now. Okay, the pandemic ends. People go back to their normal spending habits or whatever spending habits they're going to do, and the hype dies. The Pokemon hype just goes away. Okay, and it just fades off. So after that happens, what happens next? Well, prices drop. People are not spending as much, and I feel like this hype, what we're going through right now, is almost the same hype when Pokemon was released. I remember I would always go to Toys R Us to go to like the tournaments and play the game. And we have to remember this. Pokemon is a game. It's not all about just flipping cards, slabbing cards to make a few hundred more dollars. I know there's a lot of people doing that right now, but realize, well, there's not much gaming going on either. So Pokemon Company realized this and shifted gears, and they're just printing more and more sets, more modern sets. And this is why vintage sets will hold its value, because it's not being reprinted. Now, for cards too, like vintage, it's hard to even come across a mint vintage card. Now, modern cards are just being printed to death. Like the Federal Reserve keeps getting printed and more and more. and it keeps getting printed over again, and this keeps happening. Their Pokemon Company, in a way, is acting like the Federal Reserve. They just, let's just keep cranking those printing presses. Let's print them away. And this is bad because people are talking about entering the junk era, the Pokemon junk era, where pretty much everyone's slabbing anything, and that's going to be bad. And if there's too much of one thing, too much supply and not enough demand, that's pretty bad too. And what happens when prices drop significantly? Fear kicks in. So it's like the stock market, okay? I've seen this many times over and over again on a stock. And this is on any forms of social media. People go to like big influencers and they're talking about that one stock to buy in, okay? Pokemon is like that one stock. Everyone's just hopping on the bandwagon, the hype bandwagon, to make a buck or two. Okay, you have all these new people flooding into the market. Okay, and the people are really making money, hands over fist right now, are the people that were collecting way before it was cool. And they were collecting as a hobby, as a fun hobby. Yeah, they were making some side cash. But right now, the ones that are making bank right now are ones that got in way before the hype. Now, in my other videos, I have talked about like for example, a first edition Charizard I got for $300. That was like 5-6 years ago. Had a little scratch down wing. Now it's worth, like, after it's graded, as a PSA 4, it's worth around $5,000 to $6,000. And that's the thing. Like, yes, it was cheap back then. Yes, it was. I still kick myself because a first edition Charizard mint back then, guess how much it was going for? $2,000. And for me, I thought that was too much money at the time, because I was like, right back then it was just a hobby. Okay, it didn't have anything to do with going and buying a first edition Charizard and flipping for $100,000. It was a hobby. Okay, I bought that first edition Charizard at $300 because at that time I was broke, and that's all I could afford at that time period. You know, and when I was in the army, I was in the barracks, I didn't have anything else to spend my money on, so I bought a bunch of first edition packs, and they were worth $350 to $450 back then. Yes, prices have significantly changed, but this is mainly due to hype, and hype is dangerous, very, very, very dangerous. And I say this over and over again because hype has consequences. And so let's just say the pandemic ends, okay, a year from now. So you get this whole flood of market of Pokemon being slabbed to death, tons of cards being slabbed, okay. Then we might be facing a recession. And what's the first thing to go in a recession? You guessed it, hobbies, okay. People have to put food on their table one way or another. And, well, Pokemon cards do not produce anything. Please remember that. Yes, it is a hobby, but Pokemon cards do not produce anything. You're basically an art dealer if you're just flipping cards. Like, you take this Charizard, okay? Now, someone in the market, this being raw, probably would sell for like $150, $200 without being slabbed, okay? And the buyers kind of set what the prices go for. And the auctions are the best prices, even though there's some shenanigans like shilling, for example, that do go on. But it's only, this Charizard's only worth what it's willing to pay for. Now, I do have let's see here. Alright, so got out my little coin box, but so this coin right here, this precious metal, I mean, this is around $30 spot price, but you can melt this down, gold, silver, and it has a purpose. It can be utilized for something, okay? Pokemon sport cards can't produce anything, so in a sense, it's, like I said, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it then. And just remember that So if we are facing a recession down the road, and ultimately we probably are, and get ready for it. So like a year from to now, people are going to be start liquidating more and more stuff, and what happens when people are not buying and prices drop, they plummet. So that's where the fear kicks in. You know, once people see people, like, hey, this slab sold for $500, like a year ago, and now people are trading for 150 to 250. And a great example is Champions Path. Great example is that this is why modern sets are kind of dangerous and more riskier than vintage sets, because they're being printed to death. Now, Champions Path, when it first came out, the Rainbow Charizard was going for like 700, 800. It was going pretty high. So people slabbed it, sent it to PSA, and PSA was handing out 10s like candy because it was pulled fresh from the pack. It was sent to PSA graded, and then you had all these 10s flood the market, 9s, just flooding the market, and then the prices dropped, because if you have too much supply of one thing, it's going to keep dropping. Okay, so just prepare yourselves for now that if we do face a recession, now you have to look at your investment portfolio. Okay, let's pretend this is stocks, for example. Okay, if you want to call that, and so if this is Pokemon stocks, you want to look at your portfolio and be like, which card should I liquidate and go, that goes for the fast. Me, I'm a Pokemon collector, so I'm investing, but as an investor too, I love to collect, and this is always will be my hobby, and we need to root back to that. We need to ground ourselves back and just step back and realize this is a hobby. This is something fun to do. Yes, it is a little side hustle, but don't make it like your life goal. I mean, you can, but what I'm saying is that eventually we have to face the music, okay? And I'm already seeing the signs. So if a recession hits, people are going to be liquidating cards like no other. Once the pandemic ends, well, people's spending habits will change, and people won't be buying cards as much, because they probably want to go out and go to a movie or go dining, something they haven't done in 8 to 6 months or a year, because everything's closed. So people are going to be going out to concerts, and people are just doing more home activities right now, and this influences prices significantly. So just bear in mind what to prepare for. Right now, the prices are just influenced by pure hype right now. If you take those two factors, like Logan Paul, the pandemic out, where would the prices be right now? You got to ask yourself that. So the market's not crashing. It's not like the Great Depression. It's just correcting itself. But now if the prices do crash, well, are you dumping everything, or are you just going to collect, as a hobby? So, and that's what I'm just saying. Just treat this as a hobby. Have fun. Make some side money while you're at it. And more power to you. All right. Hey, if you like this video, I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your opinions, even if you disagree. But hey, like this video, sub, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.